Coming up on the live stream, President Trump talks to the Hispanics and takes questions from reporters.
Mr. President, will you take some questions from us?
We miss you, Mr. President. I'm being sarcastic, sir.
Jump on into the live stream. The agua is fine. We are live. Welcome, everybody, to the live stream. We've got a couple of things to cover today, but first, I owe you a mea culpa. Yesterday, I said that Florida was at a 28% testing positive rate on coronavirus tests. That was a filthy lie. That was only Miami-Dade County. And because Florida is Florida, they've proven me wrong again. That number today has jumped to 33.5%. 33.5% positive. That's 1 out of every 3 people getting tested positive. Ron DeSantis, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have ourselves a convention. The RNC is still scheduled to have... Texas is at 26% positive. Arizona is at... The entire state of Arizona is at 28% positive. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Good to see you, Casey, Samantha, Dr. Howard, Cam, Kim, Creative Group, everybody else who's in here, everybody watching who isn't in the chat room. Something new in the chat window over there. I'm trying out some more things. Let me know if the font size works for you. I was on... I didn't want to tell you about this. We'll get right into things. We got 2 things to cover. We got Trump talking to the Hispanics, and then we got Kayleigh McEneny doing her thing. I did watch the Kayleigh McEnany. I haven't watched much of the Trump yet, just the very ending of the Trump. DeSantis will forever be known as the governor who killed Mickey Mouse and friends. Disney World is open! What? Disney World opened up today. What? Why? Disney World was always like, that's a treat. Even when I lived in Southern California, it was a huge deal to go to Disneyland. We weren't rich enough to be season pass holders, drinking our Mickey Mouse tea with our pinky out. Hey, Rich, good to see you. Kayleigh McEneny. Okay, let's get going with this. So I won't say hi to everybody. I want to get right into this. We've got ourselves a couple of things to cover today, so let's go for it.
Well, thank you very much, please. Great honor to be with you in the beautiful Rose Garden.
Of course, Trump comes in, touches the mic, adjusts it, puts it right back where it was. Every single time. Has to touch things. Has to touch. See that again. This will be a long one if I rewind everything Trump does. There he is.
Well, thank you very much, please. Great honor
mic is
to be
fine.
with you.
Gonna lift it.
In the beautiful Rose
Put
Garden
it
on
right
a
back to where it was.
sweltering day.
Needless touching.
But I do
That
want
is
to
the
thank
title
you
of
for
my
being
Trump
here
book.
as we proudly launched the White House Hispanic Prosperity Initiative. Very exciting. Very exciting.
I'm excited. Everybody there is excited without their masks.
Thank you. With this very exciting new effort, we will deliver a future of greater promise, opportunity, and freedom for our nations. Really, it's a treasure. You are a treasure. The Hispanic Americans and the Hispanic American community is a treasure. Thank you.
Some
We're
of them I
thrilled to
assume
be
are good
joined
people.
today by Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. Thank you, Betsy. Thank you.
Education.
Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross. Thank you, Wilbur. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Small Business Administrator, Jovita Carranza. Thank you, Jovita. Very popular, Jovita. And Representative Mike Garcia. Good, thank you. Thank you. Congratulations, Mike. That was a big win, huh? Biggest in 22 years, they say, huh? First time in 22 years.
What the hell is... I'm watching this on a YouTube channel, and now we're going to have to sit through this. Sorry, guys. Skip ads. Okay, hold on. Should we watch the Trump ads? Let's skip those. There we go.
That's a good one. Well, you got something special going, right?
That's
Thank
Mike
you, Mike. Great
Garcia.
job.
He was won the
Yesterday,
special
I was delighted
election
to host
in
my
May,
friend,
March?
President
May.
Lopez Obrador of Mexico. here in the White House and affirm the close and continued friendship between the United States and Mexico. It's never been better. The executive order I will sign in a few moments will expand our efforts across all of federal government to deliver educational and economic opportunity for
You're welcome,
Hispanic
Dr. Howard.
Americans.
Hopefully they block the Nazi.
At the heart of our strategy to create a prosperous future for every Hispanic
Producer
American,
Joanna.
as well as all Americans, is a great family of education. We are going to have a tremendous program, and we have, and you know, we're a believer in choice. Choice. The other folks don't believe in choice, and choice is a great civil rights issue and maybe the great one of our times. I'm going to fight to ensure that every Hispanic American parent has the freedom and the right to send your child to the public, private, charter, faith-based.
He's talking about school choice being the great civil rights question of our time. School choice. In his defense, he's talking about the choice to have someone else do your SAT. So,
At home or independent school of your choice.
oh, it's not your choice to be here.
And
is it?
school choice is a incredible issue in many ways. It's a political issue, I agree. Most people agree with us. The smart ones definitely agree with us. But it's also a moral issue, and it really is a fundamental issue of civil rights.
School choice
No
is a
American
moral
student
issue.
should ever be trapped in a failing government school, which has happened so often for so many years. It's one of the problems you see when you see these cities.
There are failing government schools. If only there was a department in charge of education. You could call it the Department of Schools.
Going up in flame. One of the most successful educational models is the charter school, which has been under unceasing attack from the radical left. Charter schools have been incredible, but they're under attack, and you know why they're under attack. More than 1 million Hispanic American children currently attend charter schools, and nearly 1 in 3 charter school students is Hispanic American. I'm proud that under my administration, we've delivered $1.5 billion for public charter schools. That's a record.
The cat's gray.
As
And I'm
long
not
as I'm
superstitious.
president, I will never let
That's
your
why I'm not
charter
successful.
schools be taken away from you, be taken down. I will never let you down. I will never let Hispanic American or any American down. That I can tell you.
Except for the 135,000 who are now dead. That I can tell you.
Under our leadership, the Hispanic American high school graduation rate has reached an all-time high in the history of our country, and the dropout rate
They're the finest cages, though. The Hispanic children have the best cages. They're absolutely tremendous. They've got some of the best wire.
has reached an all-time low in the history of our country. We've also delivered a $1 billion grant for minority-serving
Never gonna let you
institutions,
down.
including
Never
Hispanic-serving
gonna run
institutions of
around
higher
and
learning.
desert you.
Our new Hispanic Prosperity Initiative
day-
will also...
One day, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be like, tune in as Trump announces his resignation. And then when it starts, I'm going, never going to give you up, never going to let you down.
expand access to trade schools, something that's been really badly missing. Trade schools, so important. Work-based learning and vocational education,
We've had trade schools before.
so important. Vocational. When I was young growing up, I used to see vocational school, Edison Vocational School. That meant people with a great talent, but a talent different than history and math and other things. But they had the same talent or far greater than many of the A students that studied other things. Vocational school. Great people, great talent, and they do very well. They do very well. Through our pledge to the American worker, we've already made available 16 million apprenticeships and training opportunities for the jobs of tomorrow. To bring jobs and prosperity to our most distressed communities, we created nearly 9,000 opportunities.
This summer,
No.
my dad and I took a silver
Hold on.
spaceship to a strange world.
Zones.
All right, if that
That's been
happens
a great
again, we're finding another
success. A
channel.
tremendous
That's
Tim
ridiculous.
Scott of South Carolina.
I'm watching this on YouTube. The C-SPAN feed was terrible.
Which have already brought nearly $100 billion in investment to neighborhoods where millions of Hispanic Americans live. And you see it, so many of you already today, and speaking with you, you said what a difference that made. Before the plague from China came in, you know what that is? That's the China virus. Before it came in and hit us, we achieved the lowest Hispanic American unemployment rate and the lowest poverty rate ever recorded, history of our country ever recorded.
We didn't
We're
have a
getting back
Hispanic
to it very
unemployment rate until
quickly.
the 70s.
We achieved the highest ever incomes for Hispanic Americans and many other American groups and communities. We built the greatest economy in history, not only for our country, but for the world. We were number one by
Not true.
far. China had the worst year in 67 years. They weren't happy with what was going. They were going in the wrong direction. And then the plague
Chinese GDP was 6% under Trump. The last GDP quarter we had was 2.1%.
came in. But together we will do it again, and we will do it very quickly, and we're already doing it. We will achieve a swift, full, and complete recovery for Hispanic Americans and the Hispanic American community, and we're doing it very, very rapidly. Our strategy focuses on sheltering the most vulnerable, including older Americans and nursing home residents, while allowing those at lower risk, such as young and healthy children in many cases. The immune system is so powerful, so strong. But the young and the healthy to safely return.
We've talked about this before. He thinks that the reason kids do well with COVID is because they have these really strong, powerful immune systems. It's the opposite. We have to grow our immune system. And that's, as kids get older and older, they start getting less sick and less sick because they're exposed to more viruses, etc. Their immune system becomes stronger. When your immune system becomes stronger, you have a likelihood of that immune system attacking your body because of the COVID inside. So one of the steroids they're giving people is, well, the only steroid they're giving people suppresses the immune system, and those people don't have what's called a cytokine storm, which is your immune system attacking your body. So, I mean, everybody knows that kids don't have strong immune systems. They're children, and that's across all the species.
To work and to
But then he didn't even know that the flu killed people until just during the pandemic.
school. We have to open our schools. Open our schools. Stop this nonsense. We open our schools. Germany, Norway, so many countries right now, they're open. The schools are open, and they're doing just fine, and they're opening in the fall. So we
Yeah, I can't remember if it was today. We'll watch it later with Kayleigh McEneny or was it with Dr. Scarf yesterday. The question was asked, what's the plan for kids with asthma? What's the plan for kids with underlying condition? And, well, we're going to just keep going with the way, in other words, no plan whatsoever. I think it was yesterday.
have to get our schools open. Denmark, Sweden, we have to get our schools open and stop this political nonsense. And it's only political nonsense. It's
Concern about 135,000 dead Americans, a skyrocketing. Let's take a look. Let's stop here and take a look so we have a frame of reference. Here is what coronavirus looks like in the United States right now. I'm sorry I'm doing this left-handed again. I got a sore paw on the right side. Here we go. So I don't think I need to blow this up. You guys can see what it looks like. As we go further into the depths of this wave, you can realize we never left the first wave. As Dr. Fauci says, we're knee-deep. I saw an epidemiologist on TV today saying that we're waist-deep, and we're soon going to be neck-deep. So it never went down like it was supposed to. I was doing the mouse on the wrong place. But, yeah, so you can see around about the middle of June 21st, it started, boop, skyrocketing again, which should tell us that that means the deaths are going to follow. That's 2.5 weeks now, so we should start seeing an uptick in the deaths if what COVID did before is tracking with what COVID did now, and we can find out if we go to, here we go. So hospitalizations, cases and hospitalizations started ticking up in June 21st, and new deaths, just a small uptick there. That's a 7-day rolling average, that black line, but and this is all kind of wacky because of the holiday that we just had. We had our Independence Day holiday this last weekend, those of you who are out of the country. Hey, Blake, Yeah, we just a little bit of an uptick there. I don't know if you guys can see it on your phones. I was watching YouTube on the big screen today, so if you want to do that, I was watching a broadcast. I had my phone in my hand. I was on Twitter on my phone, and I was watching it on YouTube up on the big screen. The company that I use is Restream, and that's what allows me to broadcast across multiple platforms. By the way, well, I'll check in. That's a nonsense question. So that's where we are in terms of the coronavirus today. Let me give you now my new favorite map. Red is trending poorly, yellow making progress, and green doing better. That's what we've got right now in the United States. All of this red. Oh, I didn't even know you can. Let's see. 259 new cases per million in Texas. That's ridiculous. Let's go to Arizona, 481 per million in Arizona. The United States, 4 states in the United States are now amongst the top 5 hotspots on the planet. Number 4 is some other third world country. I don't even remember which one it is. Might have been something in the Middle East. I don't know, but not a developed nation. Let's take a look at Florida, 431. California, 205. Let's take a look at Washington, 86. Not great. Let's see. I know somebody's over there in Michigan, 50. Pennsylvania, 55. Somebody's in Virginia, 70. South Carolina. I know South Carolina's at 305. Is that Casey? Brazil is not on the map. All right, let's get back to it. Let me get rid of that screen and go back to the Presidente.
Politics. They don't want to open because they think it will help them on November 3rd. I think it's going to hurt them on November 3rd. Open your schools. At the same time, we're unleashing the scientific brilliance of our people. We have multiple effective therapies in use already, with more being developed, and you have to see some of them. The results are looking incredible. And we are on track to produce a vaccine.
That's true, Dr. Howard. Antarctica is doing great. She sent me an article today. It's the one continent that has no COVID yet.
In record time and very, very soon. It's going to be announced, I believe, very, very soon. So we have therapies and we have vaccines. Utilizing these advances and the skill of our doctors and nurses, we have dramatically reduced mortality rates. We have among the lowest mortality rate anywhere in the world. We've done a great job.
Again, we haven't lowered our mortality rate. It's not near the lowest in the world. I think I've shown you guys this chart before. If there's somebody else in here who wants to see the chart that proves that, we're at 5%. And we have been at 5% for the last 3 months. That's not reality. And as the more tests that happen, for example, in Florida, as your positivity rate goes up with the more testing, that just means things are skyrocketing. You want to see that positivity rate come down. The mortality rate has stayed the same, 5%.
Whether it's ventilators or anything you want to look at, testing. We test so many people, then we have more cases. Everybody says, we have so many cases. That's because we test so many people. We're up to
I'm just going to let your brain fact check that for you.
Approximately 40 million tests, going up to 45 very quickly. So we have tests, other countries don't do.
Like 40 million's okay, so we don't have to say we're going to 45 very quick. It's going to be another week and a half before we get to 45. We're doing about 600,000 tests a day, I can tell you. We're doing about, and it's not going to tell me the number of tests we did yesterday. I can give you totals by states. Who cares? Let's move on.
Tests like we do. So we show cases. Other countries don't show cases. But what we do have is we have perhaps the lowest, but among the lowest.
As Chris Wilson pointed out, there's a floating island of garbage in the Pacific with 0 cases of COVID-19. Nice work, garbage barge. 100 on that, Chris.
But perhaps the lowest mortality rate, death rate, anywhere in the world.
Mortality rate, death rate, no. That's the same thing. Fatality rate, mortality rate, death, that's all 5%. The number of deaths, lower.
And that's
and it's going to start creeping up. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong.
Tremendous sign as to what we're doing and what our doctors have learned and the kind of things that we're using. It's an incredible number, statistically an incredible number. A policy of never-ending lockdowns, month after month would ultimately do more harm than good to public health.
It would not. It would not. That's complete nonsense. When we have the lockdowns, things got better. It's just the way it is.
It's so bad for our children. As a result, it really is more loss of life. We can't do that.
Joanna, I am wrong from time to time. If you didn't miss the beginning of the broadcast, producer Joanna, you would have seen me admit that I was wrong yesterday. And there was one time, when I was 24 or 25, I thought I was wrong, but I was mistaken.
We have to get back now. We did it right. We saved millions of lives by what we did. We shut it down. We saved millions of lives.
Nobody shut anything down.
I put a ban on China, heavily infected. I put a ban on Europe very early, both of them very early. We saved millions.
Remember when he put the ban on Europe and included trade? And everyone was like, why are we stopping trade? No, said his advisors. Plus, in Europe, it was only certain countries in Europe. He didn't include the United Kingdom for a few days for some reason. Because Boris is his friend. And then when he banned China, of course, there were 11 loopholes in the law. He gave a 3-day warning window, 2-day warning window, let's be fair. And he didn't include Hong Kong and Macau, which are part of China. So people just went to those areas and flew out. And 8,000 Chinese nationals came to the United States after the lockdown.
Lives. Now it's time to get back to work. A lot of people were against those bans, and now they admit, most of those same people admit that ban was the greatest thing. It saved so many lives.
Oh, for the love. Hold on.
Crucially, we realize that the health of a nation's economy is fundamental to the health of its people.
All right, I think we're just going to have to stick through that because to go and find another broadcast that didn't have that.
In the last 2 months, we have begun the fastest economic comeback in history, including an increase in Hispanic American employment of more than 2.1 million jobs. It's a record. The Hispanic Prosperity Initiative will help build on this program. I will be naming a leader of incredible vision, former Lieutenant Governor of New Mexico, John Sanchez. And I know he's here. John, I'd love to have you come up and say a few words, please.
Moving on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There it is.
To fulfill its American dream,
You guys watch the broadcast. You've seen this before, but Trump has a tendency to... he thinks he's fist pumping, but it just lurks that he's doing some... Yeah, he's using a shake weight. Watch
honored
Trump here.
to be here with you, Mr. President. Your great leadership,
And this is just some serious ass kissing.
making America great. We stand with you. We'll keep America great under your leadership. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Great job,
Oh, I feel
John.
good.
Thank you very much. Great honor. I'll also be appointing
I'm sorry
the
you guys had to
CEO
watch
and
that.
President of Goya Foods,
Goya
Bob
Foods.
Yunanway. Please. Please, Bob.
Okay, Bob comes up. I'm sure he
Thank you
praises
very
him.
much, Bob.
18 years old, Amelia Goya. Food and nutrition grow to prosper. Today, I have
God, this is filled with ads.
our in our to this nation.
We're also grateful to be joined
God bless.
by Jose
Okay, so he goes on for a while. There's something else I wanted to note there, but who cares?
Fuentes, Cassandra Garcia, Meade, Chris Garcia.
Oh, for the love. Is the media fair to President Trump? Yeah. Answer now. It's all fundraising, by the way. Those are all Trump campaign
David
ads.
Olivencia, Alfredo Ortiz. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you very much.
Appointing them as ministers to Hispanic.
Great group of people. We just had a fantastic meeting. Hispanic Americans are cherished members of our national family. They have been an integral part of building this country throughout all of American history.
And some of them, I assume, are good people.
Over generations, Hispanic Americans have started countless small businesses, inspired our communities, and served our country in every way imaginable. as police officers, service members, Border Patrol agents, pastors,
Do I say "oh for the love" a lot? I didn't even realize that. I say a lot of things.
teachers, and business.
Yes, guys, Allison is finally here. We've been... All right, we can go. Allison's here. Okay. Yeah, back it up. Let's go. Okay, we'll get this thing. We've just been sitting here waiting. It's been kind of sad. Producer Joanna's she's been frantic. She's like, should we call her? I've been texting her. She's not picking up. Okay, guys. Allison's here. I promised I wouldn't do this. Guys, we're moving on. Let's just thank the good Lord in Kevin that she's here.
Business leaders, they're incredible. Now Hispanic Americans are watching as the cities they help build, the communities they help police, the businesses they created, and the dreams they pursued are being threatened by an extreme movement that wants to tear everything down.
Oh.
At the center of this movement is an aggressive effort to defund the police, if you can even believe that. Defund the police. Think about that. It's a sad thing. These people are crazy.
Yeah,
They're
honestly,
crazy,
they are.
Which would inflict great harm on our hardworking Latino communities. Great harm. Many immigrants came to the United States in order to leave countries where the rule of law had been eroded, and they don't want those same conditions to be replicated here. They don't want them back. They know what it is firsthand. They know what happens when the police cannot protect the innocent, when the rule of law is destroyed.
So the Trump administration has been blocking asylum from the triangle. That's Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador. Because claiming that the asylum seekers are not seeking safety because their countries are not as dangerous as they think they are. And here he is saying that they come from countries where law has been degraded because defund police. So if I was trying to claim asylum and I had a court date, I would use this speech as evidence.
When justice becomes an instrument of vengeance, Hispanic Americans, they know, they're hardworking patriots who support our...
When justice becomes an instrument of vengeance, Michael Cohen was arrested today and is going back to jail.
Police protect our communities and believe strongly in the rule...
Sorry, he wasn't arrested, he was remanded. Fact check.
...rule of law. I will stand arm in arm with the Hispanic community to...
Without wearing a mask, because I'm not worried. You notice that lately Trump has his own podium? They won't even let people speak at the... Again, the virus is done. We got a beat. We've made remarkable progress. Let's send the kids back to school. The president gets his own podium.
Ensure that every child in America can grow up in safety, security, dignity, and in peace. We believe that the timeless principles of the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution are all shared, and they have to be shared in a big, beautiful heritage.
Okay, he just made a mistake. What happened there?
Independence and the U.S. Constitution.
So when he, you guys know this, when he makes a blunder on the reading, he makes an aside, and usually says "and." So he says, let's see what he says here.
Are all shared, and they have to be shared in the community to ensure that every child in America can grow up in safety, security, dignity.
Hey Goose, welcome. Keep chatting. The more you chat, the more money I make. I see you said, dude, get a Lakaifi. Is that, I'm assuming that's, we've been doing, yesterday we talked a lot about the Jewish religion. There's quite a few Jewish people in here. And I think that's from Fiddler on the Roof, right? To life, Lakaifi. Lakaifi, to life. Let's listen to the president screw up.
We believe that the timeless principles of the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution are all shared, and they have to be shared in a big, beautiful heritage of all Americans. Whether you're...
I have no idea what he was supposed to read there. Usually he'll use the word he was supposed to say afterwards, but Maybe it wasn't a mistake.
You're a first-generation American or a fifth-generation American. This is your home. American history is your history. It's about you. It's about your family. It's about our country. And the American dream belongs equally to you. American heroes inspire us all, and their legacy falls to all of us to cherish and to protect and to revere. Every American, no matter your background, is entitled to a government that puts your needs and your families first. Americans of all walks of life are united by the same noble ideas and the same fundamental designs for good schools, strong families, safe communities, and abundant opportunity. And I will not rest until we have delivered this future for every community, not only the Hispanic community.
In Israel, I'm known as L'Kaifenly Father,
which is doing so well, but every community in our land. Together we will write the next great chapter of the American adventure, and we will defend the greatness of America for your children, for your children's children, and for generations to come. Before signing this executive order, which is such an important executive order, I'd like to invite Secretary DeVos to come up and say.
I haven't even looked at the executive order, so I won't be answering questions on that, but it is not an important executive order.
A few words, followed by Administrator Carranza. Please come up, Betsy. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. President, for your leadership on this initiative. As you have noted, education opens the door to prosperity and opportunity, and Hispanic students.
FYI, Betsy's background is she comes from a billionaire family, and they make a lot of their money with private schools.
Like all students, need to have the freedom and choice to find their education fit. Mr. President, you have led in advancing opportunity for Hispanic students by supporting Hispanic-serving higher ed institutions, by expanding the opportunities for charter schools, by expanding the DC Opportunity Scholarship Program right here in the district. And there's still more to do, because all Hispanic students across our country need to have the opportunity to choose their right education fit. They need to have school choice. We know this is broadly supported by Hispanic families. 80% of them support this notion of ensuring their children and their grandchildren have that opportunity. So thank you, Mr. President, for your leadership in ensuring that all Hispanic students have that chance at the American dream. Thanks, Mr. President.
No, she is kind of a teacher. She's taught me that you can buy your way into the Secretary of Education.
Hi, I'm Nikki Haley.
This is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Hello, I'm Senator Lindsey Graham.
I'm Ted Cruz.
Hi, it's Marco Rubio.
Republican Senator Steve Daines has been one of my father's strongest allies.
Obama and Schumer.
I have a question. Why can't they figure out their audio levels? This is pre-recorded stuff. I mean, yeah, mine are all over the place, but I'm doing this live without a net. This is just terrible.
Schumer are helping his opponent outraise him by millions of dollars.
This race is tied, and we need your help to win it.
Our Senate majority is on the line.
He believes in freedom.
What?
He's pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, strong pro-business conservative.
If you could chip in a couple
well,
of
bless her heart,
Steve, it will help us keep the Senate and keep America on track.
We need Steve Daines to stay in the U.S. Senate.
And I need to get showered and get on with my day. Thanks, Marco. Okay, well, I won't be contributing.
I can't believe I blinked at you, President.
I don't understand that
Mr.
reference
President.
either.
It's a tremendous honor to be part of an administration so dedicated to helping Latino entrepreneurs during this.
Here we go. Yay.
Hey, Mike, maybe you'd come up just and say a real quick word, because it's about,
Oh, I saw this part.
Here.
I have a.
Come on,
I'll take a poll here. Get ready, guys.
California, you
get ready to answer the question.
You got to be good. A Republican. We're going to have a lot of Republicans.
This is something that has bugged me for years, and I can't fix it. If I leave this world, a better place by accomplishing one thing, it's not going to be my kids. I mean, let's be honest. It will be this.
Winning in California, Mike, I think, please.
I hope so. I think it's the beginning of something great in California, personally, Mr. President. Thank you for
I only said that because she can hear me.
the honor of being here today. It's a huge honor to be here with my Hispanic brothers and sisters, leaders in your communities, leaders in your respective businesses. I am the American dream. I am a first-generation American. My dad immigrated here from Mexico when he was 9 years old.
Okay, so either he's a first-generation American. Okay, when people say I'm a first-generation, whatever, let's just stay with American. When people say I'm a first-generation American, they can mean that my family moved here and I was born here. I'm the first of my family to be an American. It can also mean my family moved here at age 9 and then I was born, unless he was, if his dad was, there's people, they're hitting, it's the hormones in the milk. And both are correct, which means that both are incorrect. Is first generation, and let's just settle it right here, and then I'll copy this part and broadcast it out here. Does first generation mean that you're the first generation of your family to be born in the country? Or does first generation mean that your parents that the parents are the first, see? Do you see what I'm saying? It doesn't even make any sense. If first to be born, that's right. First to be born in the country. But the first generation to be American are also the people who immigrated, because both are correct, and they can't both be correct. Anyway, so I meant second generation. How many times Heavenly Father said it, Rich? First to be born, right? But here's the thing: when you come to this, for example, I'm an immigrant. I'm the first generation of my family to be an American. That is not true. My great-grandfather was a stagecoach. He rode shotgun on a stagecoach. And then, of course, you guys know my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great founded this country. So I'm not first generation. But it means both things. I don't know. First born in America or first to immigrate to America. It's both are correct, and they shouldn't be. We should make a decision here, people.
Had the opportunity to serve my country in the U.S. Navy, flying the most powerful strike fighter jets in the world, the F-18 off aircraft carriers in combat operations. And now I'm sitting here as a member of Congress on the lawn of the White House. So,
okay, moving on.
Brothers and sisters, thank you for being here today. It's a huge honor. Thank you.
Ben Carson, please come up just for a minute.
See, I'm torn because I don't know. I have no born identity here.
And say a few words, Ben. You've done such a great job. Thank you very much.
Oh, Ben Carson. I'm going to ask Heavenly Daughter if she can grab me a pillow.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you all for being here today. It's so important, the emphasis that you have placed on opportunity. And you asked the White House Counsel.
All right, I'm already bored.
And we're going to have to.
So now I'm going to go and sign a very important document, one that we've been working on for a long time, and I just want to congratulate the Hispanic American community. Incredible people. Thank you very much. And God
congratulate them.
God bless America. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thanks for the congratulations, sir. So they're dying at almost twice the rate that they should be dying. Okay, that's not entirely accurate. They're dying at 1,000 times the rate that they should be dying, because they shouldn't be dying because we should have tested and locked down to begin with. Okay, so he signs, and then let's get past this part. Give me a second here, see if we can avoid another commercial. Okay, so this is great. This is the best part right here. By the way, the last time, the president went through almost all of June without giving a press conference. He's answered reporters' questions one time since May in a month and a half.
Mr. President, will you take some questions from us?
He lumbers off. Mr. President, will you take some questions? I mean, it's where the oh, so mean, angry, one-handed wave. I hate this house. I hate this house. And we're done. Let's go find Kayleigh. And if there's ads in the Kayleigh thing, we're getting out of there. We're jumping ship. Let's see. This is from CNBC, so there shouldn't be ads coming up in here. All right, moving on. Mrs. Kayleigh McEneny.
Hello, everyone. There has been no greater champion for rectifying racial and income disparities in America's educational system than President Trump. Every child, regardless of race, income level, or zip code, deserves an equal playing field of opportunity to access the American dream.
Oh, yeah, Dr. Howard, thank you for reminding me. Because Allison was late, I'm going to play the intro again for Allison. So hold on, Allison. Hold on, I'm going to do this here. This is, again, we waited for you forever, Allison. But here, that Dr. Howard referenced this right here. I was at the White House today in the Rose Garden. I cut us off there before this actually happened, and this is me trying to get the president to answer questions. Coming up on the live stream, President Trump talks to the Hispanics and takes questions from reporters. This guy. Here it comes. There, right now.
Mr. President, will you take some questions from us?
We miss you, Mr. President. I'm being sarcastic, sir.
Jump on it. Okay, so that's what you missed, Allison. And that's what you also missed, producer Joanna. So that's why we're not supposed to show up late for the broadcast. I know that I don't necessarily announce when I'm going to do it, but it's not like anyone has a job.
Making that goal a reality begins in our schools. The evidence is clear.
Marcy, the dress is reversible.
An analysis of 41 major urban areas found that Black and Hispanic students made the largest gains in educational access because of school choice, according to a Credo study. That is why President Trump has been clear in saying in his State of the Union, for too long, countless American children have been trapped in failing government schools. To rescue these students, 18 states have created school.
I swear to God, guys, we should have a Department of Education. If I leave this planet with one thing,
choice in the form of opportunity scholarships. The programs are so popular that tens of thousands of students remain on a waiting list. Now I call on Congress to give.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, guys, and I know our fashion consultant, our senior fashion consultant, producer Joanna's in the room. Are those holes in the dress, or is that a design? Like, it looks like skin tone, so I'm not really even sure. And if it is, ew. But I think those are just little designs on there or something.
1 million American children the same opportunity. Pass the Education Freedom Scholarships and Opportunities Act, he said, because no parent should be forced.
Exactly like a pegboard. Yeah, I want to just like hang things right here. Just put a couple of pegs in there, and then I can hang like baseball gloves if I worked at a sporting goods store. She's basically a human end cap.
To send their child to a failing government school. Well, now, if Democrats have their way, children will not have access to schools at all, and that is not acceptable to President Trump.
That is also not true. Everyone is for school. Everyone, including the Democrats, have said, hey, let's do this online education thing. And how about the feds come up with some money? So yeah, there's a ton of money in the new, what's called the HEROES Act, which has passed out of the House. And Mitch has said, I'm not touching this thing, but just all kinds of money for education and kids. In fact, not as much money as they wanted to put in there. What's in there is actually a compromise with less money, but billions of dollars for childhood welfare and education.
President Trump continues to fight for equal opportunity in our schools by boldly and firmly underscoring the absolute necessity of America's.
Oh, I would totally peg that. Wow, I'm not even going to finish that sentence because it just, I'm not feeling well now.
Schools to reopen this fall. The data is clear. Sustained school closures hurt students who have fewer resources the most. McKinsey & Co. created these models. I have some graphs for you to estimate the potential impact of school closures, and they found this, quote, how much learning students lose during school closures varies significantly by access to remote learning, the quality of remote instruction, home support, and the degree of engagement.
Hold on, let me go
As you
back.
can see in this chart, students who vary significantly by access to remote learning, the quality of remote instruction, home support, and the degree of engagement.
Hold on, I can adjust her. Sorry, guys. Thank you for letting me know, Lizzie Dog. Let's try that.
As you can see in this chart, students who experience average quality remote learning.
Testing. Oh, we don't do testing anymore because if we test, we're going to end up with more cases.
Progress, but at a slower pace. Students who are getting lower quality remote learning stagnate at current grade levels. And students who are not getting instruction at home.
I want to see the chart. Stupid YouTube feed.
Lose significant ground, with some students dropping out altogether.
Show us the chart.
As you can see in the three scenarios mapped on this graph, if students return to school in the fall, the disparities are far less than if they return in January of next year or the fall of next year, where disparities in learning are enormous. But school closures affect more than just learning. As the NAACP has pointed out, for students of color at all levels across the country, school closings create problems even more urgent than the interruption of their educations. Schools also serve as a community.
I don't even know if that's right. What did she just say? Hold on.
School closures affect more than just learning. As the NAACP has pointed out, for students of color at all levels across the country, school closings create problems even more urgent than the interruption of their educations.
Is that grammatically correct? Even more problems than the interruption of their educations? Isn't it just education, plural, or whatever the article happens to be, singular? I don't know. It just doesn't sound right. I wish my grammar was here. I'd ask her.
Has pointed out, for students of color at all levels across the country, school closings create problems even more urgent than the interruption of their educations. Schools also serve as a community nexus for food and for housing. Rest assured that President Trump knows more than anyone the importance of open.
I will never rest assured anytime anybody says, rest assured that President Trump finished the sentence. Do not rest assured at that point. I think it should be education. At random, you're good with the grammar. You weigh in on this.
Our schools, which is why he has been the most vocal advocate for reopening. And President Trump's America, make no mistake that he will continue to be the biggest fighter for equal opportunity in our schools and continued access to the American dream for all.
I think Mitcha or Micah is almost made a pun there. So congratulations. Please bring more. We welcome puns here.
And with that, I'll take questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Kayleigh.
Can I turn myself up? Yes, I can, but no one has ever asked me to before. Hold on. Testy. Okay, here we go. Yeah, we're good.
I'm just curious, after today's Supreme Court rulings, how...
Okay, let's turn her down. They are pumping the volume. Pump up the volume. Crap.
How is President Trump feeling?
Oh, hold on. We have an answer here from Matt Random. In general, commonly used context, the plural form will also be education. However, in more specific context, the plural form can... God damn it. Hold on. See, there's too many people in here now. Okay, however, in more specific context, the plural form can also be educations, e.g. in reference to various types of educations or a collection of educations. Yes, like fish and fishes, you can have fishes as long as fishes are different types of fish. I don't know in that context if those students are having different types of education. That's what I'm wondering, because from the sentence, it didn't appear that was the case. So who knows? Maybe this is something the NAACP put together, and she's just reading it from that. Who cares? Moving on.
About the two justices that he appointed to the Supreme Court, Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh, who ruled against him today?
Well, the justices are entitled to their opinion. This is an independent branch of government. But as for the decision, President Trump underscored.
Fishies is not grammatically correct, Dr. Howard, but beneficies is.
To me, I was just in the Oval Office with him, that it was Justice Kavanaugh who pointed out in the New York State court case that there was unanimous agreement that this should be remanded to D.C. to the.
Wait, what's going on? Danielle, our moderator, says they're not in YouTube. Kevin Father makes them a moderator on. I don't know if I can. I'm trying to get more familiar with Restream, so I will update you guys if I know anything about that. At Random says both her parents had interrupted childhoods and truncated educations, and God, you guys, too many of you. It used to be so easy to read the chat, and I'm seeing the chat room in delay too. Okay, somebody type something in YouTube for me, guys. There, Dead Scream did. Okay, Dead Scream, and that came up very quickly. So I'm not sure what's going on in terms of the chat delay. Moving on.
Excuse me, to the district court where the.
For those of you out there who are watching and not chatting, great, welcome. You're always welcome here, and hopefully we're entertaining. If you'd like to chat, best way to do it is to go to youtube.com/KevinLeeFather and join in. The chat window is a little bit larger there. If you do know me, a lot of my Facebook friends watch. And the chat isn't large enough for you, the text isn't large enough, we're trying to come up with the best font size for the chat. Let me know. Send me a instant message on Facebook or whatever you call it.
President may raise constitutional and legal arguments. That was unanimous agreement. Also, there was a note in the Roberts opinion that the New York State case, basically, the grand jury said that they were prohibited from arbitrary fishing expeditions and initiating investigations out of malice or intent to harass. So that language made it pretty clear that this was a win for the president.
I did watch part of this earlier. Yeah, so the president said, I have complete immunity, absolute immunity. You cannot touch a president. You can't even investigate a president while the president is in office. The Supreme Court said 7-2, no. Go back to the lower courts. You've got to defend yourself. That you can be investigated. And that is a win for the president.
When you were speaking to the president in the Oval Office, did he have anything to say specifically about Justices Gorsuch or Kavanaugh?
We didn't speak specifically about the two justices.
Okay, and if I could, one question about the CDC's guidelines. Yesterday, about reopening schools, yesterday the Vice President came out and said that he said that the CDC was going to be putting out new guidelines next week in terms of reopening. But the head of the CDC, he was on another network this morning and said that they would not be changing those guidelines. They would just be putting out some additional documents. So can you explain the discrepancy between those two?
Yeah, the CDC director noted that there would be additional guidance. The vice president noted that as well, but we're on the same page.
No, the vice president said they would be revising and putting out new guidelines next week. That is what he said.
With Dr. Redfield, who has said, I don't want this guidance to be a reason for schools not to reopen.
And that's why they were reissuing guidelines.
And he said that these were not meant to be prescriptions. They are guidelines. Ultimately, it's up to state and local governments as to what their guidelines look like. There are 47 states who have issued their own guidelines so far. And I would also note that the CDC recognizes in their guidelines that many of these things that they're recommending are not feasible, which is why they use the words not possible 18 times and not feasible 9 times.
I looked through the documents. I looked through every single document I could find from the CDC, including the non-documents, just websites linking to documents. Not possible and not feasible are not listed in those amounts that she's talking about. She has some sort of magical document that's not accessible to the general public, which is odd because it's supposed to be accessible to every single school district. But not possible, not feasible. Here's the thing. Feasible and not feasible? Feasible means both feasible and not feasible at the same time. Possible means maybe means maybe. Maybe yes, maybe no. You don't need the yes or the no. But they not only have to, there's no reason that she would have to say not feasible, not possible, those words include that in there. But this is the framing that they do, the spinning, if you will.
Our schools to reopen, it's imperative for the health and well-being of the child.
Yes, thanks, Kayleigh. You said yesterday that you had asked the president whether he supports the idea of staggered school reopening schedules, where kids go to school on some days, not others. Did you have a chance to talk to him?
Yeah, I did endeavor to get with him on that today, but because of the Supreme Court ruling, we didn't quite get to that yet, but it is on my list of things to follow up with him about.
And then to follow up, so, I'm sorry, it's two different things that the Vice President and Dr. Redfield described. One was changing the guidelines, the guidance that was previously released. And what Dr. Redfield discussed this morning was just adding supplemental guidance. Which of those is actually happening? And is the White House, in addition, also planning to release its own guidance?
Well, I think Dr. Redfield was noting he doesn't plan to rescind the current guidance that's out there. There will be supplemental guidance, but these are not requirements and not prescriptive. It was the way he characterized the initial guidance, and he said that this guidance should not be used as a reason for schools not to reopen. We all have the same goal here, and it's for schools to reopen because the health of the child absolutely depends on it, and it's imperative, as the presentation I showed, to rectify disparities that we get these schools open.
And sorry, is the White House releasing an additional document as well?
I have no announcements on that. None in the works, but doesn't mean that it won't happen. Yes.
Thank you, Kayleigh. I'll try to barrel through these quickly. Are the president's taxes still under audit, and specifically which years?
The president's taxes are still under audit. I don't have years for you.
That is now a 5-year audit. His taxes have been under audit for 5 years, and she's saying, yeah, oh yeah, totally, 5 years. Yeah, no, I first got pregnant in 1978, and I will give birth at some point. And as soon as I do, I will let you know the sex of the baby. We don't want to spoil anything. We want to keep it a surprise.
Okay, let me ask you if I can. He could release his taxes at any time. This case went all the way to the Supreme Court.
He could.
His own nominees ruled against him.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't the American public at this point believe that the president has something he's trying to hide?
First, let me note something. The taxes are under audit. He said he would release them when they are no longer under audit. The justices did not rule against him. In fact, it was a unanimous opinion saying that this needs to go back to the district court, and they even recognized that the president has an ample arsenal.
Here's what happened. It was a 7-2. No, you can be investigated. No, this is all nonsense. You don't have this absolute immunity. That's not a thing. 7-2, saying that. And they all unanimously said, go back to the lower courts and you can actually fight this constitutionally. In other words, make your arguments. They didn't say that you had arguments to make. They just said, yes, you can be investigated and you need to do that. That's all that they said. But there was no 9-0 unanimous decision.
Arguments that he can make. And in fact, I would show that the Vance majority laid out a...
But I looked through the Supreme Court decision too. There's nowhere in there does it say ample arsenal. That's not a thing.
Roadmap.
Just like absolute immunity.
For the president. The Vance majority said the president has the right to challenge the subpoena on any grounds permitted by state law, be it bad faith or undue burden or breadth. They went on to say the president can raise subpoena-specific constitutional challenges, and they specifically mention a violation of the Supremacy Clause as one thing that he can raise. So they essentially laid out a roadmap. His justices did not rule against him.
So to be clear,
which is why this actually is a win for Trump, because all of those arguments, if they were constitutionally valid, should have already been raised, and we shouldn't be at this point. The whole point of this case is to delay things past the election and hide the taxes until that point, and that's what's happened. So is it a win for the president? Yeah, it really is. And even if the taxes were released, it wouldn't change anybody's mind. We're at that point, people.
Okay, fine. I don't dispute anything that you just said. What I'm asking, though, is the president, whatever the court says, the president can release his taxes whenever he likes. So why shouldn't Americans at this point believe that the president isn't trying to hide something?
You know, the media has been asking this question for 4 years, and for 4 years the president has said the same thing. His taxes are under audit, and when they're no longer under audit, he will release them. But I would also note the
Will he produce the letter saying that he's actually under audit?
Excruciating ruling for House Democrats who were very much called out for their partisan games. They also subpoenaed the president's financial information, and Justice Roberts said said, far from accounting for separation of powers concerns, the House's approach aggravates them by leaving essentially no limits on the congressional power to subpoena the president's personal records. So leave it to House Democrats, who did a partisan impeachment, a political witch hunt against this president, and this was yet another part, only to be rebuked by the Supreme Court.
Let me ask about coronavirus. Just my follow-up, if I may, on coronavirus quickly, Kayleigh. Hospitalizations in the country are up 50% since mid-June. How can the president say that the country is in good shape right now?
So I would note with hospitalizations, in a lot of these hospitals, I spoke with Dr. Birx this morning, about 10 to 40% in the hospitals reaching high capacity are COVID. So a lot of hospitalizations aren't pertaining to COVID. What I would also note, and I'm glad...
Hospitalizations is not because of COVID?
Well, a lot of it is elective surgeries and other surgeries that have opened up. About 10 to 40% in the hospitals reaching capacity are COVID related.
So her argument here is that the reason the hospitalizations are skyrocketing is because of elective surgery. So somewhere out there's a whole bunch of people going, you know, what would you... do you think I could use a ventilator? Yeah, I'm going to have a ventilator put in. Just right. Hospitalizations for COVID, specifically COVID in Texas, have gone from 2,000 to 10,000. That is why Texas is running out of hospital beds. They're spinning this like a whole bunch of people just decided to get boob jobs in July.
But I'm glad that you asked about COVID, because I do want to take a moment to highlight some of the things that the federal government has done.
Can you answer my question first of why we're in good shape right now with hospitalizations going up in spite of what you said about elective surgery?
Well, one of the things I would note is the mortality rate, which has had, if you look at the weekend numbers, a 10-fold decrease. You could argue an even greater decrease if you compare to some of our highest days. We're seeing the fatality.
Okay, the mortality rate, again, stays the same. It's 5%. It's a 10-fold decrease. That's not the way math works. If a 10-fold decrease would be if you have $100 and you have a 10-fold decrease in that, you would have $900 that you owed somebody else. That's how math... You could have a 90% decrease. That's okay mathematically, but you can't have a 10-fold
rate in this country come down. That is a very good thing. We grieve when even one life is lost.
No, you don't. You do not grieve when one life is lost.
But I think it's progress as we enter the next phase of this.
But aren't a lot of other people serious?
It's like this. They think elective is what, you know what, you can't breathe. Do you want to come to the hospital or not? You can stay here and die, and you can come to the hospital and die either way. It's your choice.
Yeah.
They're very pro-choice.
Thank you, Kayleigh. On the China, so the administration today rolled out some sanctions against high-level Chinese officials over the Uyghur abuses. But can you speak overall what that does to the U.S. relationship with China, and does it jeopardize the Phase 1 deal?
Look, I think with regard to, I look at these Magnitsky Act sanctions, and the administration does, not with regard to Phase 1 China deal. These are very serious sanctions that were put in place by this administration to take strong action against the human rights abuses of the Chinese Communist Party. I just want to emphasize and underscore that we sanctioned officials, several of them, the party secretary, his former deputy, and its current party secretary. It's also its former party secretary, so that was 3. And today's announcement is the latest in a series of actions by the Trump administration, so it's not just these sanctions that were put in place. There were export controls. The president signed the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act, so we've taken a very strong stance on the side of human rights and against the atrocities we've seen. And just so the American public knows, some of these atrocities have been forced abortions and sterilizations and really despicable things that have been done.
What are we sorry for with Allison? Go on.
Communicating to the Chinese is that this issue is separate from the Phase 1 trade agreement.
Human rights is a paramount issue. It's very important. We took action.
I'm kind of sorry that Allison's late today. That's what I'm sorry for. Allison, though, no, seriously, what's going on with Allison?
We've crafted a Phase 1 deal. We hope the Chinese government will honor that. Jack.
Thanks, Kayleigh. You mentioned that the court decision today was a win. It didn't sound from the president's tweets this morning that he viewed it that way.
Yeah, for a win, the president was awfully upset with the Supreme Court this morning. Presidential harassment, no deference. It had a 4-tweet tirade. Not, but I mean, like an actual thread.
Has his thinking on it changed as he's had more time to digest?
If he had won, if he thought that he won, he would have just had a picture of himself with a big "Thank you, Supreme Court."
The president was making a general point about deference.
I'm so sorry, Allison. She lost. Your mom passed away in March, and I'm sorry, so sorry that happened to you.
On the principle of absolute immunity, which is the posture that the
How are you doing, Allison? It's got to be just it's got to be so rough for you, and I'm sorry.
That the president took in court. He believes there should have been more deference there. Justice Alito, citing the Harvard Law Review, made a very good point that constitutionally speaking, the president never sleeps. The president must be ready at a moment's notice to do whatever it takes to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and the American people, and we wish there would have been more deference to that point of view. But it is a big win, as Justice Kavanaugh noted, that all 9 justices said this needs to be remanded back to the lower court, and that, in fact, the attorney Cy Vance had not established his ability to secure access to those records. Instead, further proceedings are required.
Giving the opportunity for the U.S. Attorney in New York.
So I lost my mom 2015, and it does get easier. It does get better, and I know it doesn't seem like it will now, but it's. And there'll be moments 5 years down the line that it'll just hit you as well. And the things that you miss about her, the things that you associate with her will trigger those memories. But you get to the point where, I hope that you get to the point where you just appreciate the fact that she was there. To help you along with your journey. And so I hope you find that.
To look at those documents is no doubt not something the president is happy about. I'm wondering, in general, if after this ruling and the ruling on DACA, the ruling on LGBT rights, the ruling on the census, whether the president regrets at all his criticism of judges, in particular Justice Roberts. Chief Justice Roberts.
No, I think what the president, what has been underscored to him after all of these rulings is that, we need more conservative justices on the court. That's something he's very strong about. It prompted him to say he'll release a list of more conservative justices he wants on the court. So I think that's been the big takeaway, not particularly with regard to this ruling, but with the previous ones that you mentioned.
There are conservative judges on the court now. It's a 5-4.
Yes, and then there was a 9-0 unanimous decision that this needed to be remanded, and there was a roadmap, as I noted, a roadmap set forward on how to proceed in the lower court, and there were several arguments.
There was no 9-0 decision. That's not a decision.
Arguments proposed that the president could make in lower.
That's just what happens.
Lower court.
Yes, Kate. I've got 2 questions for you. One, on these rulings today, the Supreme Court is rejecting this assertion from the president that he is immune to investigation while he's in office. Does he agree with that he is not immune?
Well, where the president stands is he still maintains his initial position, and he agrees with Justice Thomas in the dissent, who said the demands on the president's time and the importance of his tasks are extraordinary, and the office of the president cannot be delegated to subordinates. A subpoena imposes both demands on the president's limited time and a burden, and he went on to describe that position. So he agrees with the dissent. He agrees with the dissent by Justice.
As a dichotomy of emotions here. Does he agree with the decision? He agrees with the dissent. I'm going to read some of the dissent. He agrees with the dissent. The dissent is not the decision.
Justice Thomas. So he takes issue with the point that the majority made on absolute immunity, but nevertheless, I would underscore the victory here as Cy Vance, the attorney, was not given what he wanted, which was access to the
He still thinks he's immune to investigation.
The president still stands beside the posture that he made. He accepts any Supreme Court opinion as the law of the land, but
the president still stands beside the posture that he made, like when he stands like a gorilla. Is that the posture that he made? The posture that he made.
Nevertheless, doesn't change his viewpoint. He can disagree with the opinion, but he certainly will follow it.
And on coronavirus, my second question on coronavirus, I'll be quick. You're saying that you don't want these CDC guidelines to be one-size-fits-all, overly prescriptive about how these schools reopen. So why is the administration making it one-size-fits-all that they all need to reopen fully and at the same time?
Because there's a way to safely do it, and there's a lot at stake.
I'm sorry, Dead Scream. I'm sorry to hear that. And Chris, you lost both your parents when they were young. Also, I'm sorry to hear that.
I mentioned the 67,000 pediatricians represented by the American Academy of Pediatrics who say it's imperative schools reopen. That was underscored by another.
Okay, hold on, because this is also, I was like, no, that doesn't, the American Society of Pediatrics, the AAP would never just say we need to get everybody back into school here. And so I will show you this so you don't know that I'm just making this up. Whenever I do fact checks, guys, don't believe me unless you've watched me enough to understand that you can trust me. Again, yesterday I was wrong about a stat. And today that stat's even worse than I said it was. So I was correct retroactively is what happened. So this is the American Association of Pediatrics. Right off the top here, it is critically important to develop strategies that can be revised and adapted depending on the level of viral transmission in the school and throughout the community, and done with close communications with state and or local public health authorities, and recognizing the differences between school districts, including urban, suburban, and rural districts. They are not saying everybody get back to school. There are conditions. The devil is in the details. So's God, for that matter.
1,500 United Kingdom pediatricians. The costs are high when, your network, CNN, is reporting about child abuse. I mentioned this study yesterday. It was a good piece by CNN.
At random, yes. There's a good story about at Random's dad that if we do some kind of Zoom thing or whatever, if she wants to share that story, a funny story. The reason I was reminded of it because she said she's first generation and then mentioned that her dad immigrated over there, and I happen to know a story about her dad and immigration that's pretty funny. Maybe we'll see that another time, so stay tuned.
And that's in Massachusetts alone.
Linda, I totally know what you mean by I miss her voice. I can do my mom's voice. This is my mom's voice. I can do my mom being angry at me. And I have before on the broadcast, and you probably thought like, oh, he's doing that falsetto and no one really sounds like that. No, listen to this. This is my mother upset with me. I'm going to stand back from the mic here a little bit. Kevin Timothy Williams, your father is going to come home and he is going to be so... That is my mom's voice. Absolutely. And I miss that voice. She was a soprano. The little things. Dr. Howard, I didn't even see what you wrote there that made somebody cry, and that's moving on. Yeah, I can do my mom's voice and I can do my Bampa. I do his voice as well. Hold on, let me just... Oh, Danielle, you're so good! Danielle is the greatest moderator in history, everybody. I went to approve something, and she had already done it. Again, those of you who are watching but not chatting, I don't want to take up too much time talking to the chat room. And I hope you can see what they're chatting as well. Let's get going with this. We're talking about... we're the Dead Parents Society.
Reports of alleged child abuse dropped almost 55%.
None of this would be happening if Allison had shown up on time.
Because when kids are not in school, a lot of times we don't catch that abuse. The costs are too high to keep schools shut down. They can safely reopen. Even the American Academy of Pediatrics believes that, and the president...
We just went over that.
...is going to stand on the side of the child, always.
And no one is disagreeing with that about child abuse, but I'm saying, how can you say you're not going to tell all the schools how to reopen, but you're going to tell them all when to reopen?
There are 47 guidelines issued by the states. There's local guidelines that have been put in place. This can be
47 sets of guidelines.
Done safely. It can be done well. In the American Academy of Pediatrics, I've pointed out a lot of what they've put out their own set of guidelines. There's a number of guidelines floating out there, and we believe there's a way to safely do this, and the child will always come first in this administration. Yeah.
Didn't answer the question. The question was, how can you tell them when to go back?
Thank you, Kayleigh. A logical follow-up to Caitlin's first line of questioning, though, is if the president still believes he has absolute immunity, it makes him sound as though he thinks he's above the law while he's president of the United States, at least.
It's almost as if folks don't understand a legal term of art. Absolute immunity is a legal term of art, and I can go
a legal term of art
and describe.
But she's a lawyer, by the way, educated at Harvard, and Harvard should be ashamed of themselves. I agree with Donald.
That, and maybe I can best describe that by quoting Alexander Hamilton, who was referenced in
Alexander Hamilton,
the Thomas opinion, and Alexander.
If I start singing Hamilton, Kevin Lee Daughter's going to fall asleep in the first act.
Alexander Hamilton really created the posture and the outlook that laid the foundation for the notion of absolute immunity. And it was this: energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is essential to the protection of the community against foreign attacks. It is not less essential to the steady administration of the laws, to the protection of property against those irregular and high-handed combinations, which sometimes...
Combinations? That's how they said it way back in the day.
Sometimes interrupt the ordinary course of justice, to the security of liberty against the enterprises and assaults of ambition, of faction, and of anarchy. A feeble executive implies a feeble execution of the government. And the point he was making is that the executive is imbued with many constitutional authorities, many responsibilities to protect this nation from threats, foreign and domestic, and he must be able to operate unencumbered. That's where the proposition of absolute immunity comes from, and that is what the administration was defending in court. And we are pleased by the 9-0 opinion to send this back to the lower court.
Is that what Hamilton said? Is it, though? No. She's quoting from the Federalist 70. Let's go find Federalist 70 here. So Alexander wrote the Federalist Papers. In this case, he wrote them to the people of New York. This is the Federalist. Federalist 70, which is where she's pulling that quote from, is about the notion many people wanted there to be a multi-person executive branch, not just one person. Alexander Hamilton believed that it should just be one person, and the biggest reason he had that it should just be one person is because one person can be watched. Oversight can be taken on one person far more narrowly, and that's a quote, more narrowly. Man in public trust, a single man, that's what he was saying there, man in public trust will much oftener act than a group of men in such a manner as to render him unworthy of being any longer trusted, than in any such a manner as to make him obnoxious to legal punishment. It was easier to take oversight of a president or an executive if it's just one person. Nowhere in here, go ahead and read Federalist 70 for yourself, it's not that long. Nowhere in here does he say anything about absolute immunity or that the president has to be immune because it would stop his energy. The energy he's talking about is the availability of the president to make decisions, and the reason you wouldn't have a group of people being executives is because then the decision process would take much longer, and the president has to be able to make decisions like that. It's got nothing to do with prosecution. And of course, Hamilton was the one who was all about the public trust. So it's all nonsense. Back to Kayleigh.
Though we're not pleased by the absolute immunity component. Yes.
Could you, Kayleigh, could you expand a little bit on Education Secretary DeVos's comments today about you're not going to cut funding to schools, but to shift funding to families? Do you know what that means? And the second question, unrelated, is...
Yeah, Betsy DeVos wants to take the money that the federal government gives to schools, and the federal government only gives about 10% of the school's budget in any region, and most of that money goes towards children with disabilities, children with higher learning curves, minority students. It goes to various places. But the bulk of your child's education comes from the local jurisdictions. Basically property taxes, which are under audit and can't be released for at least 10 years. That's what pays for education.
Does the White House have a comment on the...
Which is also why a lot of lower income areas, the schools are not as good because the tax money isn't coming. It should just be federal. If you want to make things even across the board, just make the Department of Education in charge of all the funding. But then, of course, you end up with a problem where, like, Betsy DeVos mightn't be in charge of the Department of Education.
Retirement yesterday of Colonel Vindman from the Army.
So to your first
Ouch, Linda, don't do that. That would be my advice.
question, I did not.
By the way, Linda, I don't know. Are you a parent, Linda? Because I want to ask this question. Did you give birth to somebody? Linda, let me know. I'm going to keep watching the chat and listening to Kayleigh.
See Secretary DeVos's comments, but as you describe them, it leads me to believe that it was a reference to the president's
Excellent point, Dr. Hibbely. Nobody's watching about the Russia-Afghanistan payments for soldiers because we're talking about school choice, which Trump started yesterday, which he has no power over. He can't reopen the schools, but we're all talking about reopening the schools, and we're not talking about, hey, so the Russians were paying bounties on American heads, and the president did nothing, and it was in his presidential daily briefing in February, and he didn't read it, and instead that day spent time with salt and or pepper. That's why we're talking about school choice right now. Squirrel!
Tweet yesterday about changing education funding if schools don't reopen.
Wait, you have 4 kids? Okay, I have a question for Linda then. Let me go. Hold on. I'm going to do something here so I can catch the answer, hopefully. And I might ask you this question 2 or 3 times if I don't see it. Linda, which is more painful, dislocating the shoulder or having a child? That's my question, because I can't have a child, so far as I know.
As I noted yesterday, what this administration's goal is that funding be tied to the child, not to a school district where schools are staying closed. That's our paramount guiding principle as to what that looks like in action. That will be forthcoming. We're hopeful that all the schools reopen in the nation. That's the goal. And we are hopeful for more education funding in phase 4, as I noted. And with Colonel Vindman, I'm not going to focus or comment on a former junior employee. I know the White House has not spoken to him since he left, and I would refer you for further to the Army.
Was there any pressure from the White House for him to retire?
Yes.
Kayleigh, picking up on the coronavirus questions in schools, though, North Carolina, for instance, has seen a record high number of coronavirus-related hospitalizations, more than 1,000 today, and that's a 5-day rising count for those hospitalizations. So it's the White House's position that schools in
Okay, so childbirth is more painful than the separated shoulder. Now, here's the second question. Did you pop your shoulder out to the back or to the front, anterior or posterior? Tell me what happened, how you popped your shoulder out.
North Carolina and hard-hit areas by coronavirus should absolutely reopen next month.
It is our opinion that schools should reopen. I'd refer you to Dr. Redfield, who said yesterday, head of CDC, this virus has a very limited effect on kids. He went on to say, unlike the flu, kids are not driving the transmission cycle. He's in agreement with Dr. Scott Atlas, a former chief of neuroradiology at Stanford, who said children under
I'm with you, Chris. Paper cut and salt. Much worse than childbirth. Yeah, which is why Margaritaville is not my place with the paper menus.
18 have virtually zero risk of death from COVID, virtually zero risk of serious illness, which was also underscored by Yale School of Public Health Professor Albert Koh. The bottom line is that the impacts of COVID-19 on children is minimal or
Linda, what were you doing when you separated it? Do you know?
Very low compared to other age groups, but you know what is at risk for children?
If you were giving birth while you separated your shoulder, then yes, you win.
Children is people not reporting child abuse, is these very serious consequences that are at play in the educational disparity I noted when kids stay home from school.
Dr. Birx also said yesterday, however, that there wasn't enough data on how this affects children because they weren't originally testing children at the same rate as adults. But to the point about places like
That is exactly right. That is what happened. That there is not enough data on the children to know how it affects the children.
Again, North Carolina, where they have
You're absolutely right, Cam.
been hard hit. You think that they should absolutely reopen next month?
We believe that they should absolutely reopen the schools in this country, that kids are at very low risk. And I would also quote to you the American Academy of Pediatrics. I would venture to say those 67,000 pediatricians care very deeply about the
Okay, now I'm going to take off my glasses here and talk to the ladies. Those of you who've given birth to children, Good job overpopulating the... Okay, great. Everybody, oh, there's nothing more painful. Yeah, I know. I get it. It's painful. But they do give you a lot of drugs during the process. Here's the thing, and I think most of the guys in the room, and I don't want to start something. I don't want this male versus female or whatever. And I know all the females haven't given childbirth and all of it. Here's what I'm saying. I've dislocated my shoulder. I've split my skull open. No surprise. I've broken my leg 3 different times. The dislocation of the shoulder was the most intense pain you can imagine. I almost passed out, and I saw the tunnel, the whole thing. But does not compare to the fact that right now it's the Stanley Cup and there's no hockey. Childbirth? No Stanley Cup. That's all I'm saying. I don't want to start a big thing. I don't want to get into it. I'm just going to put that on ice. Just saying. Okay, I'm over it now. I'm trying to be strong.
Children that they treat, and they have said that children and adolescents are at considerable risk.
Adolescents are at huge risk of not actually existing. Let's hear that again, because I'm sure she's going to correct herself.
Reopen the schools in this country, that kids are at very low risk. And I would also quote to you the American Academy of Pediatrics. I would venture to say those 67,000 pediatricians care very deeply about the children that they treat.
Quote it,
and they
please.
have said that children and adolescents are at considerable risk.
I am 74% positive that the American Association of Pediatrics did not say adolescent.
Risk of morbidity, and in some cases.
Thank you, Danielle. See, there's a woman's point of view, and she can empathize. Thank you.
Is mortality should they stay home from school. This president will fight for the health and well-being of children.
Yes. Thank you, Kayleigh. A study that came out of Detroit last week about hydroxychloroquine, which the president tweeted about, showed that it cuts deaths in half. Yet the American people have been told by government agencies like the FDA and some government medical experts that it is not.
Producer Joanna, you are welcome. If you need something to live for, you are welcome to live for me.
Not effective for coronavirus. So what is...
Now, see if you can do something about getting hockey started again.
What is the American people supposed to think? What is the official position from the administration on this possible therapy?
So I'm glad you've asked this. The president has always said that he sees hydroxychloroquine as a very promising prophylactic, but that every person should not take it unless they get a prescription from their doctor. That's...
Hey, wait a minute. What did I miss? Amanda Juliet's pretty funny. Amanda Juliet said, I hear wearing a mask is worse than childbirth. That is actually true.
Paramount, very important. The president has taken it himself as a prophylactic. And I would note that there's been a lot of wrong studies out there that were heavily touted. Like there was a Lancet study that was published, and many in the media pounced on this Lancet study, and it questioned hydroxychloroquine.
It did.
And you had folks like NBC's Glenn Kirshner saying the president should resign over the Lancet study questioning hydroxychloroquine, and CNN spent over 90 minutes heralding the study that's now debunked, that has been detracted. But what we have found, though the Lancet study has been retracted.
Hasn't been debunked, it has been detracted by the writer of the study because he couldn't verify all the results which he got from various locations around the planet. But anyway, that was not a study about using it as a prophylactic. A prophylactic is you would take the hydroxychloroquine, as the president said he did, in order to prevent the infection of hydroxychloroquine. That's what Kayleigh just said twice, that it was a prophylactic use. The study from the Ford group of hospitals was not about using it as a prophylactic, completely different thing.
We have seen a Henry Ford Health System study, and that Henry Ford Health System study showed that it is very promising, leading CNN to now tweet a surprising new study found that the controversial anti-malarial drug hydroxychloroquine helped COVID-19 patients better survive in hospitals. And the CEO of Henry Ford Medical Group said it's important to note that in the right settings, this potentially could be a lifesaver for patients. So our position is...
Yes, in the right settings. And the president took it as a prophylactic, and let's take a look at a study that actually studied it as a prophylactic. Oh, that's not it, but I like that. There's the mortality rate. Okay, we were talking about the mortality rate earlier. You guys can't see it, but wait, here, I can use my fingers. There's us. We're so high on the mortality rate scale, we're at 5%. If we were lowered down, come on, Kevin, learn how to lower your, I've forgotten how to lower my finger. That's 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%. We're literally off the chart. I had to write Trumpland up there. I did that. That's not what I wanted to show you, though, so I'll get rid of that. I'm glad I kept that. Study, hydroxychloroquine. Hydroxychloroquine does not prevent COVID-19 infection if exposed, studies said. And in the study, they could not find a single example of somebody who was taking hydroxychloroquine as a preventative versus a placebo. Anyway, so yeah, this is just all nonsense. The president took it he took it as a preventative.
Is where we always were, where the president was weeks and weeks before the study ever came out, that this was a promising drug, but it should only be taken in consultation with your doctor.
So is the FDA going to reauthorize it for emergency use?
I would refer you to the FDA on that.
Okay, one more, if I may, on a follow-up to what the president talked about a few
And if the FDA gave news conferences anymore.
Weeks ago regarding Antifa, saying that his administration planned to designate it as a terrorist organization. We haven't really heard anything else about that. Is that still the plan, or when is that happening?
So that was the Department of Justice saying that they will prosecute these cases as domestic terrorist cases. So I'd refer you to the DOJ as to how that's working operationally, but the DOJ has arrested many individuals, including 7 out in Portland, Oregon, for a variety of offenses, including attacks on law enforcement. So we're working hard to ensure that Antifa does not dominate the streets. This administration stands against that kind of lawlessness.
Does the president think they should still be designated a terrorist organization?
The president stands by what he said. Yes. Chanel.
Thank you.
Oh.
My question.
This is OAN. What are the odds she's got a mask on?
One question on Cyrus Vance, the New York DA who was demanding Trump's taxes. Vance has a troubling history of protecting predators and attacking Republicans. Case in point for non-New Yorkers.
My producer Joanna.
He worked to reduce.
Joanna's gonna leave, and she's gonna miss something that's specifically designed for her. So go have fun, Joanna. Go ride your little bike around your little graveyard with your little neighbors. You're gonna miss out. See, Allison's smart. She got here and she's sticking around. But no, go have a good time. Go. What? Who's sending money to the PayPal? No. If you're gonna send money, PayPal right here. PayPal.me/KevinLeeDog. Dog. That's even better. I need to get a dog.
Epstein's sexual predator status. In 2015, NYPD had audio evidence of Weinstein admitting rape, and Vance's office refused to prosecute. All this while attacking President Trump's family and their enterprises. Given this history.
So Chanel Rianne with AOAN is now comparing Trump to Weinstein. I don't know if you want to go that direction, but okay.
What is President Trump's views of Vance from both a personal standpoint?
This channel sucks. They're not even going to the reporters. I just realized this entire time it's been on Macaroni.
And a political standpoint, is this Vance is he just politically abusing the court system? What is Trump's...
No, Joanna, go ride your bike. Go ride your bike. It's not that big of a deal. Go ride your bike.
News on him.
Yeah, you raised some very good points about the partisan attorney in Manhattan. Justice Alito said this in his opinion. It really stood out to me. He said, as for the potential use of subpoenas to harass...
David, why do you keep asking about cake?
We need not exhibit a naivete from which ordinary citizens are free. As we have recognized, a president is an easily identifiable target. There are more than 2,300 local prosecutors and district attorneys in the country. Many local prosecutors are elected, and many prosecutors have ambitions for higher elected office. Bring in Cy Vance, a Democrat, someone who Justice Thomas pointed out something very interesting. Justice Thomas...
A Democrat who keeps getting reelected, democracy.
Noted that the district attorney for the County of New York, Cyrus Vance, served a subpoena on the president's personal accounting firm that, quote, was nearly identical to a subpoena issued by a congressional committee requesting nearly 10 years of the president's financial records. So the partisan attorney, the Democrat from New York, is aiding and abetting the Democrats, the lawless Democrats like Nancy Pelosi, who have pursued this president with bogus charges of collusion, with bogus charges in the impeachment inquiry, and are now pursuing this only to be rebuked by the Supreme Court and assisted by Cy Vance.
So Nancy Pelosi is lawless.
Non-lawyers, I mean, is there legal recourse against overly political DAs out here, or is this just a war on a different front?
I'd have to,
Legal recourse against DAs. Wow. Yeah, there is. I mean, I don't know if DAs can be impeached. Look, I mean, they can certainly be voted out of office, but that's an odd question.
This was an individual who was elected at the state level, so I guess the recourse would be the ballot box. But I would also note, just on that point, that you have President Obama and Vice President Biden, who were caught spying on the Trump campaign, the opposition party. You had former Vice President Biden.
They were not.
In the Oval Office just before the inauguration, talking about the Logan Act. And later.
Yeah, you can talk about the Logan Act. That's okay.
The Logan Act was weaponized and used against Lieutenant General.
The Logan Act is a law, and if you invoke a law, that's not weaponizing a law.
Michael Flynn in a way that was so unfair and a grave miscarriage of justice. But you have Obama and Biden who get away with this, but yet we need to go investigate President Trump. It really is quite nonsensical. Yes.
Thanks, Kayleigh.
It's completely nonsensical to relate the two. If there's a case against Obama, Biden, great, prosecute it. Go for it. You have all the power to prosecute right now. You've got Barr in office. Go do it. I'm never voting for Obama again. But no, we're just going to talk. Just you wait.
In President Trump's tweets about the Supreme Court decisions this morning, he said he thinks the court treated him differently than it.
Yeah, David notes here, Pentagon chief confirms he was briefed on intelligence about Russian payments to the Taliban. Yeah, but the president didn't read his daily brief. That's the crux of the issue. But what we really should be talking about is school choice.
Would have treated other presidents. So does he think this was a political decision by the Supreme Court, or that politics or personal views somehow entered into their legal reasoning?
So I think you were referring to the tweet about broad deference, and what he was trying to note there, what he was noting was just that there should have been further deference to this notion that I read by Alexander Hamilton and others of absolute immunity to allow the executive and the president to do the very important job of protecting this country and all the other tasks.
Okay, I don't like CNBC anymore.
The Supreme Court gives a delay ruling that they would never have.
They're doing a terrible job of covering this press conference, CNBC. Even though they're taking back Shep, now I'm torn.
Given for another president.
Yeah, and I would also point you, with regards to that, I think Justice Alito hit on this. He said in the Clinton case, for example, the court held that a sitting president could be sued in federal courts, but the court took pains to reserve judgment on the question of whether a comparable claim might succeed in the state tribunal. Any direct control by a state court over the president, the court observed, might raise concerns about protecting federal officers from possible local prejudice. So that is to say that even back in the Clinton case, where federal court prosecutions were green-lighted, they gave their grave reservations for a state court proceeding of this nature. So I think he was noting the distinguishing features there. Yes.
I'd like to ask a clarifying question from something that was said earlier. The president, you said, would like to see more conservative justices. Is he comfortable with the number of 9 justices? There's nothing in the law that says he has to only have 9.
That is true. He could put in 2 more and balance the court even more. But again, we have a conservative court right now. It's 5-4. And he keeps losing. But as we know, because we watched the broadcast, he won today. And either way, it's a win for him.
Consider appointing more.
So the president has never mentioned adding other justices, but the Democrat Party has as a way to get around.
Democratic.
I guess the rulings they don't like.
And then I have a question about the unemployment numbers from today. 1.3 million additional claims in the last week. A bit of a slowing down of that recovery. Are you at all concerned that the numbers continue to be so high still almost 4 months into continued unemployment claims?
So I would note that the numbers fell 100,000. This was the 14th consecutive weekly decline that we've seen. And from its peak in late March, initial claims are down 5.6 million.
Yeah, he won because it just pushes everything off past the election. That was the whole point. He doesn't want his taxes released until after the election. And we'll never see them. He'll lose the election and we'll never see his taxes.
Also looking at continuing claims, another metric that came out today, they reflect actual benefit payments, and those fell 700,000 from its peak in May 8th.
So my benefits payments so far reflect a total of $108. Those are the benefits I've received so far. I tried calling the Washington State Unemployment again today, and they've now extended their Don't Call Us, We'll Call You program until the 12th because it's so successful. My phone has not rung yet. Anyway, so part of the reason that benefit payments should not be used as a metric is because people are not getting their benefits payments. Payments is
the week of May 8th, and they are down nearly 7 million, and combined.
No, this is somebody else. This isn't Chanel anymore.
As Larry Kudlow was shared with me those facts, in May and June, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that 8 million jobs gain. And as Larry likes to say, the V-shaped rebound continues.
Are there any concerns that those jobs are not returning fast enough? Particularly today, the market seemed to notice the unemployment claims more so.
June, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported.
And now I would like to do my impersonation of Bernie Sanders. Watch her. She's going to do Bernie Sanders coming up here.
That 8 million jobs gain. And as Larry likes to say, the V-shaped rebound continues.
Are there any concerns that those jobs are not returning fast enough? Particularly today, the market seemed to notice the unemployment claims more so than it has in recent weeks.
I would say that the two jobs reports, the 8 million together, both record-breaking months, are very encouraging signs. And we like what we see on the horizon. Of course, there's more work to be done.
I'll buy everybody a cake. I got $108 burning a hole in my bank account. I can't afford vegan, gluten-free cakes, though. They're like $38 a piece.
But we have the jobs president at the helm to do that work. David.
Oh, I didn't know we could do emojis in the chat. Have we always been able to do? Look, guys, there's emojis. I don't think emojis have come into the chat window before.
Hi, the Health Department Director in Tulsa has said President Trump's rally there likely contributed to a big surge in coronavirus cases in the area. Does the President now regret holding that rally?
So we have not seen data to reflect that, and no, we don't regret holding the...
Well, the data was released yesterday, but they're just not going to look at it. So as long as you're not testing, you're not going to find cases. That's the way it is.
Rally. Yes.
Can I ask about the visit yesterday by the Mexican president? Can you tell us if President Trump discussed the issue of funding for the wall with the president, and if not, is that now a dead issue for the president?
It didn't come up in the discussions that I was a part of, but I'm grateful that you bring up the wall, which is being built.
I think the question was about whether he asked AMLO, Lopez Obrador of Mexico, about funding for the wall. In other words, is Mexico going to pay for the wall?
Accelerated pace, more than 500 miles by the end of the year, and we really appreciate the help of the Mexican government and securing the border with the troops that they've provided.
Does the president contend that the Mexican government may still contribute, directly to fund?
So again, I'm not aware of their other discussions they may have had, but what I would note is the USMCA, that Mexico is a big part in making happen, is bringing tons and tons and tons of money and revenue into the United States, and we're very grateful for that. Yes.
Well, thank you, Kayleigh. Two quick questions. First of all,
it's so stupid. I rarely click on ads. I don't find myself succumbing to. But if it's food, if Burger King shows an ad for grilled Whoppers at 2:30 in the morning, I will want a grilled Whopper only when things are closed. Like if Pizza Hut comes on and it's like, oh, I need stuffed crust right now. It's going to be at 12:07 after Pizza Hut has closed. And now, same syndrome, whatever that is, there should be a word for it. I want cake. They're talking about cake in the chat room, guys. I have no idea why. And there's some cake emojis over there. Cake wave. We're going through a cake wave.
Giving United Airlines' recent announcement that they might have to furlough some 36,000 workers.
I think I can set up my own emojis or something. Or you guys can use special characters or something. There's something I saw on the restream about having specialized something or other, but you're going to have to pay. I don't know if you do, but I'm just saying that.
Does the president support extend?
All right, we're just going to end the broadcast. I got to eat. All right, bye, guys. I'm kidding. We're still here. I'm with you guys till the end. This isn't some kind of cakewalk for me. Let's move on.
The aid that was already given to the airlines further, and second, on vaccines, does the president have any views on whether or not K through 12 students should be mandated to get vaccinated against COVID-19 once a vaccine is safe and effective?
Oh, that's way... The president does not think like that.
I haven't talked to him either about that point specifically on vaccinations or the airline extension, but I can circle back. Yes. And so one thing, I think I got to everyone. So just one last note I want to leave everyone with, because I do think...
Oh, here comes the binder drop.
It's a very important point. Is just...
David, I can make hot dogs. I have veggie dogs. Kevin Lee's son picked them up at Costco yesterday, so I can do that. I think I'm going to have a Beyond Burger instead.
That there was a Rasmussen poll that came out recently that showed 64% of Americans are concerned about the growing criticism of America's police and that it will lead to a shortage of police officers and reduce public safety. And of all of the demographics polled, Black Americans fear most for public.
I am so hungry right now that I had to look at her and say, wait, what is she talking about? It's just it gets to the point where she just talks and talks, and your brain just completely tunes her out because she has absolutely nothing truthful or of any pertinence whatsoever to say. It's like having kids. I don't know if she's still watching.
Safety, with 67% acknowledging their concern for this. And this is why President Trump has taken action, calling strongly for law and order and peace in our streets, and he's set the tone at the top for mayors and governors. Additionally, we've had the hundreds of federal arrests, the executive order that's enhanced our police departments and operate.
Again, set the tone at the top for mayors and governors, but will take no responsibility when violence is increased in the cities.
Operation Legend, which I announced yesterday from the Justice Department, in honor of Legend Taliaferro, a 4-year-old boy who was tragically killed in his sleep in Kansas City. And as we head into the weekend, this is our last press briefing of the week, and so I just wanted to make a plea for peace in our streets because far too many children have been lost. It's important to know their names. It's important to see their faces. And may we all hold in our prayer and keep close to our hearts the families of Natalia Wallace, who was 7, Makai James, who was 10, Bernardo Jones Jr., who was 14, Sincere Gaston, who was 1, Lena Nunez, who was 10, Amaria Jones, who was 13, Devon McNeil, who was 11, and Sequoia Turner down in Atlanta, who was 8. Let's make sure we have peace in our streets this weekend and hold these families in our prayers. Thank you.
What if there was actual peace on the streets this weekend? Because Kayleigh McEneny asked for it. She made a plea, people. Yeah, all of that terrible violence. So much terrible violence of kids getting shot, but no idea what the kids are getting shot with. I wish there was a way we could figure this out. Why is America unique in the industrialized world? I can't. Okay, guys, we're going to end this thing mercifully. You guys are just talking about cake, so now I am really going to play the credits. And producer Joanna's not going to see it. But if you have seen the credits before, I have updated the credits. That's the big news today. So if, for example, Barbara from Belgium is sleeping right now, I'm sure. I hope she is. She upgraded. She was something, and then now she's a something else. That's how much I pay attention. So that's been upgraded. Some of you have moved things around. You know what, Rich? I don't think we're going to do Billy Joel right now. I think we're going to wrap it up, and we'll do a special Billy Joel thing. Maybe I'll do that. I might come back tonight with a little Billy Joel for the West Coasters. I might not. We might let Billy Joel sit for... Okay, you talked me into it. Hold on. Let's do Billy Joel quickly, and then I'm going to go eat. Let me pull over Twitter from here. There we go. I could do the individual states in terms of let's do this. Billy Joel Madness. Here, while I'm doing that, you guys watch this. Give me a second. Okay, you guys watch this. There we go, pulling up the Billy Joel. Let's bring you guys back in. Oh, we need the chat window here. Give me a second. So that's not embedded in the stream yet. Okay. Can I bring it in? Yeah, maybe? Restream chat. No, I can't. I can't bring that in. Sorry, guys. Let's go to Billy Joel so you guys can see. Wow. Okay, so I have to move this for you guys. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Moving the chat around, like changing the chat, you have no idea. And we're not in round 2 either. I think I can get rid of that. There. Get rid of round 2. Kiss my ass, round 2. I can do this. I can move this over. There's your results. My Life losing to We Didn't Start the Fire, 38-61. That's it for the show today, kids. It's been fun having you around. Let's go back to the main feed just for a second so you guys can say goodbye to each other. Everybody say goodbye to each other. Did I say that, Dr. Layla? Okay, so Dr. Layla, I did update this in the credit. Dr. Layla, which doesn't make any sense. She's part of the Dollar Shame Club times 18. She upped her donation from, or contribution, let's call it a contribution, from $1.80 to 18 because in the Jewish tradition, 18 is a very significant number. And I'll let Dr. Howard explain a little bit why, if you care to. Hold on, let me close that. And yes, you're a lifer. I haven't changed you to lifer yet, but lifer Howard, why don't you explain very quickly, because we're almost done. Bye, Stephanie. Thank you, Dr. Hillbilly. Good to see you. Bye-bye, Linda. Take care of that shoulder. Come on, Dr. Howard. Let's do it. Why is 18 significant? Is there a reason? Okay, now this is just dead air. I know you're a lifer. Okay, numbers 1 and 8 spells life in Hebrew. I didn't know that. L'chaim. I knew that. Or as I like to call it, l'kaif. L'kaif, l'chaim. L'kaif, l'kaif, to life. Here's to the daughter I've tried to be. Here's to the bride to be. Drink l'chaim, l'kaif.
Thank you so much, Kevin.